let's talk about a question that has sparkled countless debates in the guitar community. And the question is, was Jimi Hendrix a sloppy guitar player? Well, to answer that question, we first have to explore what the definition of sloppy really is, what sloppy playing really means, and what we guitar players understand under sloppy playing. And before we answer that, the question is also, how do we distinguish sloppy playing and loose playing? Is sloppy playing the same as loose playing? And where does Jimi Hendrix really fit into this conversation? So by the end of this video, I want to hear your take. I want to know what you guys think. So stick around here. I'm just sharing my view on the things, just as objective as possible. And then I'd like to see your thoughts in the comments. So let's start with some definitions. So sloppy playing in the classical term implies a lack of precision. Think of slightly playing off beat, or you have buzzing, fret buzzing, or you have muted notes or notes that don't really come through, or you have out of tune bends or poor rhythm playing or flubbering solos. And sloppiness often stems from a lack of practice or technique. It's when a player tries to play something that he hasn't mastered yet. On the other hand, we have loose playing, and due to my understanding, the first big difference between sloppy playing and loose playing is that loose playing seems to be intentional, or it is intentional. Loose playing is about feeling the music rather than rigidly being locked into it and trying to play everything perfectly. And it's about pushing boundaries and taking risks. And this is what Jimi Hendrix did with all his performances. He knew the rules, but he was bending them, and he tried to create something new. And that's more of a loose kind of approach than a sloppy kind of approach. And some people say that sloppy happens when you don't care, and loose is when you are exploring, and sloppy is accidental, and loose is deliberate. So with that in mind, let's take a look again at Jimi Hendrix. So sloppy happens when you don't care. And if I go back and I listen to interviews with Jimi Hendrix, he was super picky about his equipment. He was super picky about his sound and, of course, about his playing. We have it on tape. We have it on video. We take a look at some of the live performances. Isle of Wight, in the end, he was completely unsatisfied with his playing, so he just smashed the guitar on the floor, and you hear him talk with the sound guys and with his roadie because he was not satisfied. So we cannot say that Jimi Hendrix didn't care about sound and playing. It was super important to him. And loose is when you are exploring. So was Jimi Hendrix exploring? He was exploring all the time. So when it comes to Jimi Hendrix's live performances, these are often the subject of criticism and praise alike. So some describe him as being a sloppy player because he missed some notes, and sometimes he had unconventional tunings or bendings or moments where his solos seem to go off the rails. But let's take a closer look. So Jimi Hendrix was known for his fearless approach. He was an improviser at heart and often venturing into uncharted territory during his live performances. For instance, listen to his 18-minute version of Voodoo Child's Slight Return that he played at Woodstock, or Red House from the Isle of Wight. He was exploring. He didn't know what was going on. He just followed his heart. He just followed his feeling. But was that sloppy? Absolutely not. That was not sloppy. Just listen to his playing on these recordings. It's super precise. Every note, every bending, he hits every note. That is definitely that's definitely not sloppy. That's a guy who is exploring. That's what it is. And I think some people mix up chaotic feel or chaotic moments with sloppy playing. So just imagine you are playing with Mitch Mitchell. This guy was a jazz drummer, okay? So he was playing super loose, all these jazz takes. And then you have Jimmy with his loose playing. You have Noel and you have Billy. And Billy was super tight. And Buddy Miles, that Jimmy played with during the Band of Gypsies period, was super tight. But overall, there was this chaotic feel sometimes in the music. And sometimes you feel lots of tension when listening to Hendrix, because you always feel, wow, what's going on? You know, what is happening? Is he playing a wrong note now? Does he know what he's doing? But in the end, you start grooving. You feel the music. And there's not many notes that are wrong. Not in the Red House take from Isle of Wight or the entire Band of Gypsies album or whatever. Go back, listen to it. No sloppy playing there. I'm sorry. It's pure creativity. It's testing out the limits of the instrument and of the music. And let's not forget that Jimi Hendrix wasn't just a lead guitar player. When we think of virtuosos like Yngwie Malmsteen or Joe Satriani or Steve Vai, do you think of great rhythm playing when thinking of these guys? I don't think so. Well, they have their moments in their rhythm playing, but it's mostly lead playing, and that's a big difference with Jimi Hendrix. So Jimi Hendrix had a sense of rhythm and timing that was really impeccable, and sometimes this is overlooked. Just listen to Jimi Hendrix playing the intro to Hey Baby in Copenhagen, Denmark in 1970. It's intricate, it's soulful, and it's precise, very, very precise. He is exploring chord embellishments on the fly, and these are chord embellishments that most of us guys, and I'm including myself, would never ever come up with, because we don't have the ability to play that stuff or to develop these ideas. And he plays all these chord embellishments with ease, and that's not sloppy. That's loose, that's creative, and that's also very precise. So even in his most loose moments, Jimi Hendrix had a sense of rhythm and timing that is, it's hard to find alike nowadays. And he often played laid back because he came from the blues. And if you go back and listen to blues recordings, most of these recordings are played laid back. So Jimi Hendrix just, he learned it. When he started playing guitar, he played all this blues, and he played the Chitlin circuit with many blues artists and with soul artists. And their style was playing laid back. So he's playing laid back. And this doesn't mean that he couldn't play rhythm or he couldn't play in time. He's just slightly sitting behind the beat, but always with an incredible feel and with an incredible precision. And that's not sloppiness, that's groove. And it's something that even modern virtuosos struggle to replicate. And talking about modern virtuosos, so Steve Vai and Satriani, not modern, there are way more younger, newer players like Matteo Mancuso and some other guys who are incredible players on their own, and I really dig what they do, and they are super precise and all that stuff. But it's tempting to compare Hendrix to such modern players. But these players, they deliver studio level precision in their live settings, in their live performances. But the goals are fundamentally different compared to Jimi Hendrix. So let's take a band like Dream Theater, for example. What they do is they aim for a perfect replication of their studio recording. They play with absolute perfection, and it's their artist's choice. I mean, I love what they are doing, and it requires extraordinary discipline. Hendrix, on the other hand, he was all about the moment. Just go back and listen to his live recordings and listen to his bootlegs. That is something completely different. It's not 3 minutes 30 radio edit or replications of exact tones and sounds and songs that he recorded. So if you go back and you listen to Voodoo Child, the Voodoo Child Blues on the Electric Ladyland album, which is actually a live recording in the studio, it's a live studio recording. Those guys didn't plan anything on that. So that's a completely different approach, and this approach requires lots of courage. And I think you can only do that when you are convinced of your own potential, of your own capability on the guitar. So if you're a sloppy player, a 15-minute blues jam, it would just sound like shit, to be honest. You know, it wouldn't sound like Voodoo Child the Blues on Electric Ladyland or some other songs that we find on there. And if I remember correctly, there are interviews where Jimi Hendrix apologizes for wrong notes. And he clearly says these wrong notes, they come up when I start exploring, when I start improvising. So he's trying to cross boundaries in his playing. And let's go back to the definition of sloppiness. I don't hear wrong bendings, I don't hear open strings, I don't hear muted notes. Everything, really everything fits perfectly in his playing. And it's also worth considering the context. So Jimi Hendrix was playing from the mid-60s to the late 60s to 1970 until the moment he died. And songs like Little Wing or Bold as Love and Machine Gun, they remain benchmarks of expression and technical mastery. And this technical mastery is only possible when you are a very precise player. If you are a sloppy player, those songs, if Jimi Hendrix had been a sloppy player, these songs wouldn't be benchmarks, okay? They would be bad examples of great songs. Everybody would say, well, the composition is great, but I wish he played that in a better version or better or more precise. We don't say that, okay? Everybody loves these songs. Everybody takes them as a benchmark. So many people are referring to these songs as perfect examples of rhythm and solo playing. And that's not because Jimi Hendrix was sloppy. That's because he was a brilliant player. So again, was Jimi Hendrix a sloppy player? I'd argue no. Hendrix wasn't perfect, but perfection was never the point. His playing was loose in the best way possible. It was expressive, it was adventurous, and completely authentic. And it's so great that we have so many different versions of songs. I mean, there is no Red House version that sounds like another version, you know. There's always variation in there. And just go and listen to the Red House version that you find on the album Hendrix in the West. I think it was from the San Diego Sports Arena. It's incredible. The first 3 minutes, maybe the best blues ever recorded, really. And that is so precise, and there is no sloppiness in there. He's just, you know, he's throwing in jazz chords, and then he's got these super cool bendings and all that stuff. So I really don't get when people say Jimi Hendrix was a sloppy player. I'm sorry, that's my opinion, and I try to be objective. I'm getting a little emotional here right now, but I really can't understand that. So Hendrix playing, sloppy or loose, or something entirely else for you? Let me know in the comments, and well, let's keep this conversation going. I think it's an important topic we have to talk about, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading your comments. That's it for today. Take care, keep practicing so that you won't become a sloppy player. I'm just kidding. I see you next time, and just hang around. Take care. Bye.